Hello, I'm Ryan Gardner, and this is my video report on food versus fuel. You gave us two documents to read, and I found two more. And so, based on all that I've read, the point of this is to highlight the complexity of land use management from the different dimensions of sustainability. Some of the things that I've picked up from the environmental realm is we're looking at two sides. We can see where biofuels could potentially deplete the land of nutrients if improper farming techniques are used. And things like corn are chosen as a monoculture that can rob the land of its nutrients. However, at the same time, we can see that biofuels can use less land than annual food crops. So if you pick the right biomass crops, such as trees and grasses, we typically have very good environmental results that keep the land very sustainable in nutrients and other things. Looking at economical, two sides of the coin again. Depending on the type of biomass chosen, that seems to be the star thing. You can either have very heavy land use costs, or you can have very light land use costs based on the nutrients and everything that goes into the agricultural work. And then we look on the social aspects of the debate. We see people arguing for, are you replacing our land that's meant for food with fuel? And what we see is basically where that is happening, or where we're using the land for fuel, we already have an excess of food. And so it doesn't seem like it's affecting the sustainability of the land. We're just using the land to get what we can get out of it while still trying to avoid abusing the land. My personal stand on this is I feel that the biofuel industry should be given a chance based on all the documentation that I've read. It seems like the biofuel industry is not in direct competition with the food in the food part of agriculture. Some information that I've picked up from our readings to kind of side with me here. When I look in the environmental world, I can see from my readings with Fresco from 2006 that lower land ratios are actually required if we choose things like grasses and trees as our bioproducts, or the things that we'll be taking the biofuels from. That we can hold on to biodiversity, we can hold on to the soils and prevent erosion, and actually increase the quality of water by using these trees and cover crops as our source for biofuel. If we look at the economic side of things, what I noticed most of all is that as we leave first generation biofuels behind and head towards second generation biofuels, once again from the Fresco reading of 2006, it seems that the second generation biofuels are way more efficient and more reliable than first generation ones that in the past have shown to be inefficient, such as corn and canola oil. And so when we look at actually our planting crops to get the cellulose and lignocellulose as opposed to the starch to use as our source for the energy, it can have value. Also, for those that choose to use corn, because in the United States corn seems to be something that's mass produced. The reading I did from Muller, Yeldon, and Schoonover suggests we have such a high production of corn, and lots of that corn goes directly to waste because it's never consumed as feed or other, that it could be used as a reliable source of biomass for the biofuels without the additional costs. So we can actually be raising funds from what would be thrown away anyway, and so that's a net profit. And so that is something that we really appreciate. When I look at social reasons for picking biofuels, several articles like the Rosgrant and Songi and the Tomei and Hallowell point out the fact that it seems that as we start to grow biofuels, it's actually causing crop prices to increase, which sounds like it would be a bad thing, and in some of those articles is written as a bad thing. But what we see is it's actually helping the farmer make the money they should be making from the product anyway. And whereas big business has kind of raised an eyebrow, according to Mueller, Yelden, and Schoonover, because for years they've gotten cheap biomass for their feed. Now they're actually having to pay what it's worth, and so they're a little upset. But now the farmer actually gets to benefit from that. So despite having kind of a smear campaign of, you're taking our food land away and replacing it with fuel, what we see is that using products like wood, like grasses, and like other crops that are capable of being grown outside of your traditional road fields, we can still support the biofuel industry and actually not hurt the common man in the process, as pointed out in Fresco 2006. I hope that kind of explained my personal take, and thank you for listening.